Good evening and welcome to the January 9th, 2017 Goffstown Selectmen's meeting. First up would be join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And first up would be the acceptance and correction of minutes from 12/22/16, public and non-public. I would take a motion.
Motion to accept public and non-public, 12/22/16.
Second.
Mark.
Seconded by Mark. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, 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 wait.
Hold on.
Did I thought I,
You got a note?
yeah, didn't I make something red in here? Hold on. There was a motion that,
The handwriting on page 5,
Really?
5 of 8?
yes. In that motion, I think the motion, I don't know what it actually was, but it should be to place a warrant on the,
That's right.
an article on the warrant.
That's right.
So, those are the...
I was voting on it as it was
Oh,
delivered to us.
with the pencil mark. Okay. I just want to make sure you all agree to that.
No problem.
Okay.
Any comment? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none. Announcements. We have a announcement from the Department of Public Works, the Road Scholar Program. It is our pleasure to inform you that Zeb Burnham has achieved the status of Road Scholar 1. The T2 Center has created the Road Scholars Program to recognize various achievement levels in our educational program for the people who work in public works. Road Scholar 1 is the first achievement level of the 6 levels in the Road Scholar Program. It is distinguished from other levels by requiring the completion of 25 contact hours at the learner's discretion. The typical training session yields 5 hours of contact, therefore an individual must typically attend 5 one-day workshops in reach the level Zeb has completed. On behalf of the Technology Transfer Center, I am pleased to notify you that the extra effort and commitment that Zeb has demonstrated in order to achieve this status. He deserves to be congratulated for his persistence and drive to maintain a leading edge in the field of local road maintenance and construction. And this is signed sincerely, Amy, I believe it's Benoich?
Benaki.
Benaki, okay, Benaki.
Good boy, Coach.
Our congratulations and appreciation go out to Zeb for his taking the time and energy to do that. Second thing is we're coming up on March election time, and there are some positions open. And I'll run down these real quick. Selectmen, 1 for 3 years. Budget Committee, 4 for 3 years. Cemetery Trustee, 1 for 3 years. Library Trustee, 3 for 3 years. Planning Board, 2 for 3 years. Sewer Commission, 1 for 3 years. Town Clerk, 1 for 3 years. Trustee of the Trust Funds, 1 for 3 years. Zoning Board of Adjustment, 2 for 3 years. On the school side, you have school board members, 1 for 1 year, and school board members, 3 for 3 years. Official openings above as of January 5th, 2017. Future resignations of elected officials may add to candidate openings throughout the close of business day, January 24th, 2017. Candidate filings open at the town clerk's office Wednesday, January 25th during regular town hall business hours and ends Friday, February 3rd at 5 p.m. Candidate filings on the last filing day must appear in person. And then there is attached is a copy of the Declaration of Candidacy. Anybody got anything else? Seeing none, we'll move on. That was pretty quick. That was announcements. Sue, you want to start with anything, or just...
Well, these guys may want to get home.
No.
Man,
I'm here for the night.
Okay. I think Chief Police wants to come up. Yes. No? You don't want?
The ordinance, we thought we'd move that to the front since you're here, Chief.
And Adam, you probably want to join in?
This is a snow emergency one, Adam.
I'm only doing this for Adam.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, here we go.
Who's responsible for enforcing it?
Us.
I just wanted to check. Adam was not gonna be out there.
Yeah, no badge on Adam's shirt, so really you're kind of hung up there, chief.
So, we had put forward a draft of a snow emergency ordinance back in 2015 when we were trying to change the overnight parking ordinance. And it kind of got, it just got lost in the shuffle, and obviously last year with the snow that we didn't have, it really didn't become an issue. And what we were trying to do is trying to establish a mechanism for a declaration of a snow emergency during a prolonged snow event where our highway was going to be out there for many, many hours beyond the 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. time period, that we would need to actually restrict parking on the roadways in the municipal lots so that they could do their job and do it effectively without any delay. So we had drafted the ordinance, and the intent of it is to try to place it within the codification right underneath the current overnight parking ban, and it would change the title of the ordinance to winter parking restrictions. Is that what we had? And this would be a subsection B of that particular ordinance where, thank you, Sue, where it would stipulate that the DPW director would be able to declare a snow emergency for a certain time period. So for, 2 p.m. to 12 p.m. the next day, or maybe shorter or longer depending on what the event would entail. And it would allow us to, the teeth and the authority to be able to make people move so that they could do their job if they needed to. I will admit that for many, many years past, a press release of a snow emergency used to suffice without too many problems, but we realized that we were lacking in statute authority to do so. So this is kind of putting the actual teeth into it and make it be lawful. So I wouldn't anticipate having to ever use it, right, Adam? Because we're never going to get snow again. So that would be the way. But I just think it would make sense. It would give Adam, like I said, the authority to be able to do so. And it's not going to we're not going to restrict it for like a week. It would be for that particular event. And it may even be after the snow stops for a time period for them to be able to do the cleanup that they would need to do.
And how would you get the word out?
Well, currently we do through press release, blast faxes to all the media. We do Nixle, we do Facebook. It would be across town-wide platforms for social media. And usually Manchester right now has their blinking light, and we try to piggyback on when they're going to be doing it, because if it's affecting them, it's likely to affect us as well. So it would kind of be more of a regional event that you'd end up seeing. I know that one of the radio shows in town has advertised when we've advised against parking on the roadway for certain periods of time. So there'd be a multiple platform approach to sending it out. And I think that probably a lot of discussion like the last storm that we had, Adam and I, as to when we're going to do this, if we were going to do it, and how we'd go about pushing the word out to do so.
Is there any way we could eventually come up with a cost of using the lights that are at intersections now, along with a sign attached to those?
Can certainly get an estimate for both. I was going to recommend for Main Street at least, where we're going to be coming through to replace some of the signage, and we've got the blinking light for the fire station emergency apparatus anyway. Might not be too bad to add a fixture there.
Well, when there's an emergency coming through town, an emergency, a fire engine or an ambulance, at the intersections, there's a red light that flashes now.
Correct.
Is there any way to hook into that system where we could?
So the Opticom is a visual, with a strobe. We might be able to add a separate timing clock, but I don't think we want to use the same head to do that. It'd be another panel, another piece in the panel. And then a separate light, obviously that part wouldn't be too terribly expensive. Main Street would be a little tricky where we don't already have a signal here to.
Yeah. Rich?
In the city of Manchester, they run the white light, and it's done by radio frequency. So that they activate it with, on a radio frequency, it activates, and they hit it again and it shuts off. That's probably the most cost-effective way. Otherwise, you'd have to go to each light and flick it manually. So we can get that price.
you know, you might as well figure, Alan?
The question being, for Adam, maybe, couldn't we use, or would it be feasible for us to use the signs, we have our construction signs using this in the wintertime, to put them up and say, look, okay, snow emergency tonight?
The big
Yeah,
signboard.
I mean, we could,
The
the police station can put, they could put on theirs, obviously,
If it was the
right?
right condition, I can see a place for those. The tricky part is, where do you put them if you have a real big event that you're really gonna need to enact it? It's hard to carve out room. We could always take a loader and, clear some space.
Well, once you've got it and it's parked off the road someplace, you leave it there all winter, what difference does it make? You're just gonna turn it on, turn it off.
Maybe.
You've got a couple, and we're not using it in the winter, obviously, right?
You could.
Well, no.
It comes up, we
Well,
have
I mean-
events now and then.
I would think maybe you could put it like at Pernalville Fire Station,
Yeah.
that type of thing, you know. you could-
If I can only add,
Just get one
in
and put
times
up.
past when we've done that, the public has been very responsive to making sure that cars don't park on the street. So
Oh, no, but if-
we've had some really good luck, I think, with mostly those platforms that I spoke of getting people to move.
All right, I mean, just
I
cost.
think we could use those signs if it was like a nor'easter coming through, but
Well,
I
I
think we
mean, it
need
would
something
be-
more, I think we need something more permanent. It's gonna be a
No,
permanent
yeah,
fixture on the
people
pole.
want to listen, absolutely no parking on the streets, this is gonna be a bad scene here, so.
Let's look at that in the future. For now, we'll go with what we got, and the big signs, if something does happen, like there's a large event, like Caller says, you can drag those out, pull them out, and make sure that message is on the boards, and then,
It only really has to be on there for 3 or 4 hours, when it gets started, people are gonna see it, they're all headed for home, and look, hey, don't park on the road.
then we can look at the future and maybe putting up the lights like Manchester has, if it's not that expensive, so.
So I guess just the recommendation to the board is that we'd move forward with a public hearing on this particular ordinance so that we could try to get it, hopefully we don't need it for,
Till the end of February,
We better
because
get
that's how long
We
the
better get
process
started,
will
we're in
take.
snow season.
well, I mean, if we keep talking about it, maybe it won't come, so that's what we're hoping for.
I will proceed with that, and I mean, Sue,
I'll schedule the public hearings.
anybody have any questions, problems? Nope. We'll go ahead and take care of that, thank you. Anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, Adam, I think you're on the schedule next.
Sit tight, okay.
Move.
All right, so first off, Eric and Megan brought down, on the discussion of Main Street North Mast, the project this summer upcoming. Based on the original Village Master Planning Commission, some of the Town Master Plan documents, some of the CMAC intersection project discussions. We put together our best guess at what North Mast ought to look like to sort of incorporate a lot of the desires of all those different groups and what had gone in years past through the process. And basically, whereas some of the earlier ideas had included some angled parking on alternating sides of North Mast all the way out to Church Street, we kind of thought that the need for that amount of banked parking that far out is probably slim to none. The two things that really start to become a problem with angled-in parking is, of course, headlights in people's houses at night, and now you've got a parking lot in your front yard that maybe you didn't have before, and also the width of road that's needed. So it's quite a different requirement when you have angled-in parking. It's deeper, of course, but also you're making a back-in movement into the street, and that requires more lane width to accommodate that. So what we've settled on for North Mast and proposed, hopefully with your blessing, to go forward with it, just this section anyway, for further design for the drainage, would be 14-foot lane widths, some alternating where possible parallel parking, which loosely mimics what's already sort of going on right now. It's kind of ad hoc in front of people's houses. There's people that pull off to the side and park, and we obviously, where everything's going to become curbed, you kind of reduce that ability for a lot of folks to park street side. They're going to have to, if they want to park on their front lawns, they'll have to go in their driveway and then pull onto the lawn. But we've added some parking back in where we can. So a big, nice 14-foot lane width, which allows some shared space for bicycles and other use. I guess not a lot of horses, but you never know. Nice wide sidewalks on both sides, some additional green space, some street trees, as you see there, the darker green. Some street furniture as you get a little closer to the downtown area. Some of the red planter boxes you might see. Some ideas for benches or otherwise, maybe flower boxes as you get closer to the intersections. With Clinton. Some gentle bends as you see in the roadway, so you don't have one straight shot as you come into Church Street. As you leave the DOT section, you won't see a big runway all the way down into town. Very gentle, so it's not a, not a plow issue or an emergency apparatus issue, but there's two kinks in the road. So as you come in, you're going to see a nice greenery. You'll see trees, kind of ahead of you, and as you line North Mast, and it'll take a gentle bend, and you'll see more trees ahead of you, and then one last, gentle bend, and to point you back in towards the Elm Street intersection. And that was kind of part of the CMAC and the Village Master Planning studies as well. They kind of recommended, they call them chicanes, but in this case, they're kind of longer than they normally would be, so it's not very abrupt chicane. So that's kind of a traffic calming measure to slow down the midnight speeders. It doesn't do anything to affect the heavy traffic flow though during the day. It's not it's not like a speed bump or anything where it's going to slow every single car down.
David's got a question.
Granite curbing the whole way?
That'd be granite curbing all the way to the end of the urban compact. That's right. The design as it sits right now doesn't include a dedicated bike lane. I know that's come up sometimes before with, do we do a dedicated lane, or do we make it wide enough to do a shared lane and just kind of assume people obey the rules of the road? What's not seen in here is in a few years when Church Street comes up, we've got a lot of width on Church Street. Right now it's sidewalk on both sides for the majority of the length. And the question would be, do we want to continue that in the future, or maybe do we want to only have two double-sided sidewalk on the Main Street end, and then as you get further out of the downtown area, maybe you use that width for a bike lane, and that becomes a preferred bike lane through town. So there's some other stuff that could happen aside from this.
Collis?
I can't recall, Adam, is there a closed drainage system in place already to accept the curbing?
There is an existing system, but it's in real rough shape. So basically,
It'll be
everything on the
rebuilt?
North Mass section is going to be rebuilt. That's right. So we kind of have our choice about where to put it, but we do sort of, at least for this portion, and the second half of the discussion tonight is about how to schedule Main Street final discussions. But we'd like to try to nail down best we can North Mass so they can start working the drainage and actually say these are where the basins need to go, and more importantly, where the outfall areas are going to go. Right now, we've got a little bit of question on the Church Street end where we're going to put water. But
Sue, do you have a question?
I did. Yeah, I see all the nice trees, the green. I assume the green is all the green, nice trees. Are these utility poles near those?
Utility poles on North Mast are on the northern side. As you head out of
Northern
town.
side.
A lot of them actually were reset, maybe a handful. This
Because Eversource sends us
spring.
this flyer that we post everywhere about, when you're planting trees, to dwarf trees, and I didn't know what the plan was for these, so they don't interfere with.
That's almost a next level design. We'll kind of come back around for that portion.
Okay.
Right now, it's been identified as a tree pot, possible location for a tree pot. And then when we actually get into selection of,
Okay.
we say, yep, this is it. Okay, if they're next to a utility line, they're going to have to be something that's more utility friendly. We've also had some feedback from Dairy recently in the public works realm in New Hampshire, saying that they had picked a few species of trees based on some recommendations, and they didn't end up too well. Some of them heaved outside the root ball pots, and some died right off within a couple of years based on the road salt usage. So we'll have to kind of take those lessons learned when
Sure.
we find a selection for ours as well.
Question. One doesn't very often see mid-block handicap parking. Is there a standard for why you did that?
So the way the ADA works on the handicap parking for public parking, they kind of treat any street with on-street parking that's being reconstructed as a project, kind of like they treat it like one big parking lot. So the expectation is that if we're adding or replacing or upgrading on-street parking, we should try to maintain proper number of spaces, and the proper proportions. So I asked Megan and Eric to throw a few on as close as possible to the church and more on the downtown end, thinking that's more likely than not, where the customer base is going to be. And we've got, of course, a few businesses close to that intersection. So that's where they tried to fit that in. But certainly if there's a good argument to shift it further out of town, we could do that too. But just trying to, as best we can, get some in.
This is still kind of a work in progress, but it's pretty, this is the destination is,
That's right. There's, between the green space and then a couple feet of buffer on either side to the right of way, we can shift, tinker a little bit. Parking might be able to flip. You start to, everything kind of has a domino effect if you change too much, with the with the gentle curves. If you want to move that to a different section, it kind of throws off the parking. And we have the transition with the DOT and at Church Street, where I'm sure they don't want to kink in the road directly at the urban compact line, so.
Adam, does this design take out any parking that's currently available?
Currently, officially,
This area
there's
more.
really not much at all. On this-
Even down
on this
towards this
section.
area?
There's a few businesses that have, and lots that have curb cuts that are basically the whole property line is open. And kind of as you go further away from the center of town, it's the same thing. It's just sort of the grass panel that between the sidewalk and the street is gone, and it's just turned into gravel. So it's kind of free for all. So in a sense, yes, it's sort of, while we're kind of
Defining it,
firming
yeah.
up what we have, it's, there's really no official public parking, even in front of the church. There's, 3 spaces, but it's not marked or anything. It's kind of shoehorned in. We had a problem last year with the highway safety, people parking in that corner too close to Summer Street, and we tried to alleviate that a little bit, but
Are any public meetings would be held with residents in that area?
so for North Mast, my proposal here tonight would be to get the selectmen's blessing for the general layout, general idea, general, sidewalk, green space configuration. Then we would hold the normal pre-construction meeting that we would do with the
Okay.
residents, and invite, of course, anybody else that wanted to come. More of a, here's the plan, if, we obviously change things if there's a, real great public outcry or a great reason to do so. In this case, where there's a lot less, impact, the right-of-way's nice and wide, we're really just using public space,
Mhm.
to tighten things up.
It's still nice to let them know what's going on in front of their house.
Exactly, you want to keep them involved for sure.
Anybody have anything else?
Not much else you can do with it.
So would we say it's okay for him to proceed?
I think so.
Yep.
Yes. Let's proceed with that layout.
Put
and-
some more colors on so we can see it more.
Right. So the next steps for North Mass will be, they'll work on drainage design, and we'll come back around when it gets a little closer, when we start picking tree types and bench types and that sort of stuff that, we want a coherent right from one end of town to the other, so there'll be more to follow for sure, but that'll allow us to get going on that work. Okay. So, now the tricky part 2, Main Street. Main Street's been through the same type of process a couple times, but since it's been a while and I don't have a great, we're gonna, probably half the public are gonna want one thing for Main Street and half are gonna want the other, so it's gonna be contentious, I think, no matter what decisions are made there. I guess as a starting point, I'll tell you that currently, we have spaces that are too close to intersections. So in order to get proper turning radius and proper sight distance out of all of our side streets, we stand to sit at about 23 spaces on the Main Street section. So that's from the bridge here to Elm Street intersection. So about 23 on-street spaces.
How many do we have now?
Right now, they're not actually laid out as spots. It's sort of, this is where it begins, this is where it ends.
Whatever you can cram in
I think
there.
we're in the mid-30s, if you really get down and count it and measure tape for bumper length and all that. So we're already starting from a place where there's gonna be less on-street parking, so a lot of different opinions about what to do with the village area, and, want people to act like a village, build a village, and, what does that really mean? I know Sue's talked to you a little bit, and we've got some upcoming discussions about municipal parking lots off-street in order to make up for what we may lose on the Main Street project to get things safe, but also to add to the total parking load downtown. And I'd like to continue that push, of course, too. So with Main Street, a lot of the same discussions, as North Mass that were had with the angle parking. You can there's some benefits to that, but the big negative with angle parking is we just don't have enough right-of-way width on Main Street itself to get a bank. Certainly can't get both sides, and if you do a bank on one side, you really need 15 to 16 feet of lane width in order to be able to pull back out of an angled-in space and not cross over the yellow line. It's a tough maneuver, and it's a busy place to be making that. So I think what we'd like to recommend is if parking's going to maintain on Main Street, it'd be some sort of parallel configuration like it is now. That saves right-of-way width, but it's also a little safer on the people pulling out of spaces. But there's also, the option of removing all on-street parking from Main Street itself and strategically placing municipal lots at maybe the four corners of Main Street. We've already got a couple of those corners covered and a couple of plans in the works that might alleviate that. So that's something to consider.
What would that give you if you didn't have parking on Main Street? What would that allow you to do?
So it would free up all the right-of-way space for on-street eating, seating, wider lanes. If you wanted wider lanes, if you wanted dedicated bike lanes, you could do so. If you wanted, the businesses to be able to do more of a patio seating option at more than just the one or two places that already have it. Of course, you could do that. When you figure you're gaining at a minimum, 8, 9, 10 feet by taking away a parallel parking space. It does free up a lot, but, of course, you've got to
Develop more off-street parking?
people that need that, that on-street
That's gonna be a
parking.
tough battle
I
right
guess
there.
my question is, I don't, how often are all the spots taken, or is it that packed on Main Street?
How often? Every event, major event.
Yeah, but
Obviously.
they park in other spots, no question.
But, I mean, how often on the daily business are all those spots
I
are
find
used?
breakfast time, the street is well filled with parked cars.
Yeah. Especially Saturday and Sundays, right?
I mean, for a real village community setting, I really need to get rid of all the on-street parking, which of course is not going to sit well with a lot of the businesses unless,
Had you said
unless
that.
we can identify parking areas
Right.
Exactly.
to offset that. And, we've had some discussions about that, and perhaps we need to get a little more aggressive about securing properties.
I think, we in the works upcoming, we've got a one plan that's I think almost ready to hit the street. In that, at least that one scenario, just that addition, I think, puts us in a net positive for the downtown area. The tough sell is how far is too far from the businesses at the
Right.
south end,
Yeah.
if you're parking on the northern end, or vice versa. So I think you almost have to have, if not
I
the
agree.
four
Yeah, I
corners
agree.
covered, it's a tricky sell otherwise.
But I think as a community, we need to decide what we want the face of downtown to look like, because this is going to be our one chance.
Exactly.
We're not going to revisit this and do it again 10 years from now.
But,
This is a one-shot deal.
but that's not gonna change in the next 6 months, I don't believe,
What's not going to change?
the availability of parking,
Oh,
No.
I agree.
and that's when this project is gonna start, in 6 months, I mean.
Well, one will probably, that we're pretty
Right.
sure of right now, right?
The one that, we've talked about, has been the SAU lot, so there's a few spots to be picked up there, nothing substantial. But there's a couple others, and then I've got Megan has put together some neat stuff to work with the lot next to the fire station, the new fire station, and whether or not some already owned land over there and some potential for other would create a sizable municipal lot in that area. So there's a couple of things that I think could happen in relatively short order. My thought coming into tonight was maybe talk to you kind of about the challenges that have to be discussed on Main Street, and with the hopes that maybe we, either a workshop or maybe at the next board meeting, we invite EDC, Main Street Program, and then any of the businesses on Main Street. I don't know whether that's the proper setting here, or if you want to have a workshop somewhere.
I think it's odd, one of your odd weeks for a workshop would be great.
Yeah, we could do that. I don't have a problem with that. Anybody here have a problem with that? No. I think we need to see a little bit more detail what your plan, what you're thinking for Main Street before we just put it out to everybody.
So there's no page
Mark?
2 under there?
So we've got a couple of started, we got some, they're a little rougher than this, but a couple of different versions. So one, just to show you the problems with angled-in parking, but then we've got a couple different parallel configurations, and one with no parking right now that are pretty close to being ready, but
Okay, so that's something we're gonna look into.
you have a preference on, if we're gonna set up a workshop, who you'd like to invite to that? Would you prefer just a smaller group, or would
I
you
don't know
like
if we all
EDC,
wanna come in. I don't
Main
know.
Street to-
I personally don't like to go into a meeting not having an idea what we're talking about. Have it just a
So
conceptual.
you'd
Oh,
like to
yeah.
see some of the options
Yeah.
Sure.
Before
first?
we bring anybody
I
else
don't-
in to talk about it.
I don't think I would bring the angled parking into the effect at all. I think that's kind of like,
That's not
not even gonna be an option. I think I just waste your time.
I was just gonna mention what Alan mentioned, the angle parking, definitely, I don't believe that would do the main street any good.
Oh, yeah, that screws up traffic when somebody's trying to back out.
It's not safe for one thing, somebody back out and get banged into, and it's just.
And as far as the 4 parking lots on the end, I would definitely want to hear from the businesses in town, and I guess I have mixed emotions about that. I would rather see them all on Main Street, but we'll let the people of the town make the decision for that for us.
So you'd like to see the two options,
Business,
no
no
parking
parking and parallel parking.
and parallel parking,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I think we've got we might
Next
even-
meeting?
I think we have
Well, that's the people
two
you
different
don't
parallel
remember.
versions. I'll bring them into the next meeting.
That'd be great.
Okay.
I know it may mean a little bit more work, but
Now you have a 2017 road work vendor. You had,
So, I think as we discussed last year with the Main Street project this year, kind of indicated that I was hesitant to really shake things up coming into a busy construction season with a high priority job to start with all new vendors. So I think I indicated this already, but we didn't nail this down. I'd like to, with your blessing, continue with Continental Paving. We currently have a variable rate that we pay them per ton based on the price of liquid asphalt in accordance with the NHDOT monthly list that they put out, liquid asphalt for this month is this price. They've indicated that based on aggregates and some trucking costs, they might need to adjust that, but the idea would be we'd still have a liquid asphalt-based price, but it may shift up a little bit. But I would like to work with them, try to negotiate a new rate, come back to you with the results of that if possible, rather than go out to bid. I think the benefit of the relationship we've built over the last couple of years, we call something, we need it done, we can get it done, and I just hate
Instead
to
of
have an
shopping.
unknown on Main Street, we'd all have that going on our
Oh,
face.
yeah, here in the middle of the old dirt road, and you get ready
Yeah,
to pave them.
yeah, it's gonna be kind of jump, they better say how high, So that'd be item number one. I'd like to negotiate with them and come back with a negotiated rate for 2017. Bigfoot Crushing, we've used the last couple of years. They were the winning bidder a couple of years back on the pit reclaim that we do. So we recycle all the cast-off material and screen it and put it back into the road beds. They've indicated for the second year in a row now they're going to hold their pricing for another year if we'd like to continue with them. They've done a good job. The screen sizes they have are easily swappable, and we've been happy with the product that's come through. So, with your blessing, I'd like to continue with them as well. And then the last one, another big contractor for our road work, and certainly this coming year where it's almost all granite curbing, will be Tri-State Curbing. We've used them recently. They're locally here out of Ware, which probably will pay dividends being close by. But also they do great work, and we haven't had a problem with them yet. So those are my three recommendations: 2 to continue, and 1 to negotiate with Continental and come back to you with a.
So Tri-State will keep their current price?
They it's per on a job order, so yeah, they've indicated they keep their linear foot price.
Linear foot, okay.
It's all going to be variable based on the project, but.
with the amount of curbing that needs to be done, though, does it behoove us to go out?
It may, but I may not be able to tell you that until after the job's done and we say we waited on
You'd
the
have to-
curbing contractor.
you'd have to
or-
probably go back out to bid and.
I mean, we could do it. We could certainly go out to bid, certainly get somebody lined up. I can tell you we're happy with them, and they've been extremely responsive, and they work quickly
They're
and
good
quality
people.
work. I just
Good outfit.
just the project and the visibility of it.
Bulk of what you're gonna do here is gonna be, you're gonna need people to be right there.
I'm trying to take out as many of the unknowns as I can on.
Anybody got any questions or input on this?
Can you negotiate with Tri-State based upon the amount of curbing we're doing in one area?
I guess set price.
No, I don't,
No.
I think probably, I think we're talking about maybe a better deal because of the footage we're gonna be, the linear footage that we're gonna be doing.
Is there a volume
You could
discount
ask,
for linear?
can ask, I mean, what's that?
Do they give a volume discount for linear?
No.
Per linear foot?
Not
No?
really.
It's just a set
Not-
They do-
price?
They do thousands of
Has to
feet.
be.
and
Oh,
everything.
okay.
Doesn't
They
it?
probably got more work than they're doing, I've seen them
Oh, okay.
all over the place, so.
I mean, I have no problem going with known commodities.
Yes. because
Especially
it's-
for this project.
Make the motion, or you want to make,
David's gonna make that motion?
I make a motion that Public Works continue their working relationships with Continental Paving, Bigfoot Crushing, and Tri-State Curbing for the upcoming 2017 construction season.
Seconded by,
For the North Mass Road portion?
No, for the whole thing.
It should be for the whole,
Whole town, whatever
Just
is
want to be
needed.
clear, because we've only seen the North Mass so far.
Yeah,
I think that's all you're
It's only
gonna
gonna
see,
have curb
right?
Anyway, so.
it's good.
North Mass and Maine, and Maine.
Just want to be clear
Yeah.
in the motion.
I'll second David's motion.
You have no other roads on the road list for,
Not that require curbing. We have other roads, though, on the road list for Continental, for sure. We have all the overlay from this
That's
year's
right.
reclaim. We have scheduled, anyway, Norman Road to be Band-Aid shim and overlay.
so were you requesting it for all your road work?
Yes.
You were.
Yes, that's what I understood.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
just want to make sure.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none?
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
And National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant for culvert replacement.
Yes. So last year, you might remember, we took part in the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission and the Scataclaw surrounding towns were involved in a pilot program. And the goal was to help towns identify what culverts, road crossings in town are at risk for various reasons, in order to better, put our money in the right place kind of thing and get ahead of the storm. One of the pieces of that project, and it was partially funded by the folks that want to see better fish passage and aquatic organism passage through the road culverts. Typically, they're undersized, sometimes they're perched up from the stream bed, and, fish can't, salmon aside, jump up and go. So Trout Unlimited is a big one, and the Fish and Wildlife, we're big players in this, where they've tried to get more visibility, more decision-making tools in the hands of towns. If you're going to swap a culvert, hey, take these 2 or 3 things into account when you do it, maybe upsize or try to restore a stream bed, that sort of thing. So with the idea at the end of this pilot project that we were in, they gave us a map with all of our culverts in town and the risk associated, and said, pick one that's up near the top of your risk level, and we'd like to work with you to get, A, a rough design, but B, funding, more importantly, to help you get it swapped out. Some towns don't do their own road work, and, it can get pretty expensive to pay somebody to swap out a culvert. So we had selected a couple on Stinson Road. We just recently started the first little section of drainage work on Stinson, and with the hope that at the end of next year, I'm talking to you about the rest of Stinson, and we can get that road reconstructed. But there's a crossing there that's right near the Beaver Dam. That was identified as kind of high risk, because it's 2 double barrel, and they're probably undersized, but it's also listed as a, potentially you could increase your fish passage up in that, it connects kind of 2 wetlands in a beaver area. So we'd like to put that forth as our request for additional funding as part of this grant program. They've got a deadline of the 31st, but Southern New Hampshire wanted to hear if we're going to submit anything by the 13th, so kind of a short fuse on this case, but with your permission, I'll let Southern New Hampshire know that we intend to apply for some additional funding. It's a 50-50 grant through National Fish and Wildlife. They will count force account labor as part of the town match, so the idea would be we get as much as we can from them for the material itself and for the design, and we do the installation when we reconstruct Stinson Road. So culvert we were going to swap out anyway. This might help us get a bigger one than we normally would have, and more sustainable.
Adam, have you worked at all with folks from DES with the Aquatic Resource Mitigation Fund money?
They were part of this culvert prioritization model program.
I know, we had a meeting from 1 to 3 today, talked about Goffstown specifically,
Oh,
so
great.
pretty fresh in my mind.
Great. So I believe it's Mindy, right?
Yes.
Yes. So she attended the meetings too, and I think if this fails, it's probably going to be the next thing that we try to do. But I think as part of a larger goal, we'd like to get this list in the hands of the Conservation Commission, and when they have a project, a developer comes in and they need to, reconstruct wetlands somewhere, we've at least got a hopper list of things in Goffstown we'd like to do with
Yeah,
that
and if
one.
you've got other culverts that need to be replaced, there's future years, you can still go after that money and continue to improve.
So
that sort of
I
stuff.
think it was a great pilot, and, opened
Yeah.
some eyes and a lot of money that people didn't know was available.
Make a motion.
So I'll make a motion that we go forward and pursue the grant monies.
Seconded by Alan. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none?
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And it is now 6:40, and we have scheduled Fire Chief Rich O'Brien. For a change.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
A few items for the fire department. First of all is I wanted to update the board and folks at home about the latest updates on the construction project at Church Street. The construction company, Ritchie Construction, started in earnest sometime in October, and for the longest time, a lot of people said, "What's going on?" And I said, "Well, it doesn't seem like much is going on." Well, a lot was going on the inside, where they completed demolition of interior walls and fixtures, and also they abated all the asbestos that was on the inside too. So that was a big job. So now people can drive by and see things going into the next phase. The actual steel for the structure has gone up, and they're beginning to enclose it. A lot of concrete work has been done, where the foundation has been set. Also, they've already poured the floor for the front office area. And at some point in time, if the weather behaves, we'll be able to get the concrete poured for the floor for the new apparatus bay. But again, that should be done when conditions are just right, because they have to pitch it for the drain and so forth. So framing will continue for the next couple of weeks, weather permitting. You'll see windows going on, and the roof will be going on in the new section. They're beginning they're changing over the old hose tower into now the elevator shaft. So they're doing a lot of work in there. So there's a lot of work you're seeing or not seeing, I guess, from the outside that's being done. So far, I meet with the construction company weekly, and so far we're still on budget. We're maintaining the budget as expected. There's no real big surprises. We do notice that the cost of steel was higher than expected, but the cost of mechanicals were cheaper than expected. So it's weighing itself out right now. The people driving by seeing that orange trailer that's blinking, has a blinking light on it, that's actually a heater unit. It's keeping the ground warm, so when they decide to pour the concrete, there's no frost in the ground and there's no chance of heaving down the road. So that unit is going to be there for a little bit anyway, until they pour that concrete. But so far so good. All the trades have been very responsible, and I've been happy to see the progress that they're getting and the quality work. So as they come in, right now we have a temporary radio tower that's accommodating their radio to keep ourselves in service. That was donated by the Southwest Mutual Aid. It was they got that from a grant, from a federal grant, and they were happy to accommodate for a couple of months anyway. But they'll want that trailer back soon. So you'll see the new tower, or actually the old tower, go back on the building. The reason why we had to take that down is because the steel work. They had a lot of crane work back there, and they're afraid of bumping into the tower that was on there. Also, we had to take down the guy wires that held that tower up. And we were also afraid that if we get a good wind gust, that it was going to take down our old tower. So that's why the temporary tower is there. That's the report I have for the station. I'll be happy to supply you with any other reports weekly or every 2 weeks. That's fine.
David? How is daily operations with your staff going?
It's always day to day.
The crews.
The crews are taking it in stride. They're in that construction trailer that's in the front there. So if anybody needs a fire permit or has any questions, they can always see us in that trailer. But again, a lot of times we have to move vehicles around just to accommodate construction vehicles in and out. So it's always been a challenge. Is the day to day. The crews have been great. They've been very accommodating.
Anybody else? Okay, go on to notice of the award of an emergency management.
Okay, the second item, we're happy to announce that the Governing Council, just before the holidays, awarded the town of Goffstown a total of $93,012 to purchase and install a generator and equipment at the EOC, which will be located at the fire station here at Church Street. So that grant included the installation of a generator, transfer switch, all the wiring, and also a new radio system for the EOC in the station, and equipment and furnishings. This is a 50-50 match, so the total grant is actually for $186,000 and change. So this is the actual 93,012 is the actual cash that'll be given to, awarded to Goffstown for the project. As this goes on, if it's accepted, to accept and expend the process, we'll be able to draw this down to start purchasing and getting that generator installed.
And our half comes out of the building fund?
It does. In what's great about it, was great timing for this grant is we can use a lot of the construction costs for the building to be that 50%, our match. So it was perfect timing.
And can we use any of that money to offset the cost of moving the old generator?
No, I asked that when we first applied for that. They're really trying to ratchet down the EMPG grant program. A while ago, they were awarding generators for everything. Every time that somebody wanted a generator, they get awarded one. Now it's just for EOCs, so the relocation of the old generator to Station 17 on Terrell Hill couldn't be part of that scope.
That's a gotta do.
Huh?
That's a gotta do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean, it seems like you gotta remove a generator, it could have been part of the project.
Yeah.
Alan, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Chief, so the total cost for that generator, what do we put in for a generator? We're running half the town this thing, $180,000, correct?
It'd be well, it was 100. It was, well, I can give you the detail in it by email, but what we looked at, it was a 100 kW generator.
100 kilowatt,
Yeah, with its own fuel tank, with all the wiring and the hookups in the electrical room. So that we estimated close to $50,000 just to do that. And then the rest of it was we have the radio system would cost, we estimated $11,000, and then the rest of it for EOC equipment and furnishings, which could add up.
Could you send us a copy of attachment A in the grant application, because that's apparently what they reference as how the money can be used? That would be helpful.
During the grant application process, there's an approved equipment list by FEMA, and that's what you have, everything's coded.
So will any of this new equipment be used in the fire station part of it?
We could use, for example, the.
Furnishings, I really meant the furnishing part, you know. we're
Yes,
talking
absolutely. It's when you look at like chairs and tables up in the training room / EOC, that's what we're talking about, furnishings. So we won't have to, that'll be part of that project. Any of the overhead projectors, any of the big monitors, that'll be part of this project also.
Anybody else
Like I
got
said, it was
questions?
great timing.
Mark?
I'm going to jump around a little bit, Peter. If you look at the town administrator's report, page 3 of 3, public safety impact fees, I guess the police chief cannot use $27,222.03 impact fees, which will expire in 9/1/17. Scope of the project, I guess, if I read this correctly, the money is going to go towards the fire department. Can we take that $27,222, it says it must be used for the Station 18, but can we use that sum of money to offset some of the fees to allocate the used generator at Station 17?
I don't know, we have to research that.
No, impact fees are for expansion of a project,
Okay,
so it would be for the fire station expansion,
tried.
yeah.
Good, no?
So at this time, believe we need a motion to.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to proceed with the required public hearing prior to accepting the grant.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, seeing none? Motion carries. Staffing?
Good job, chief, getting that grant.
Yeah,
Good
Yeah,
job.
no, like I said, it was great timing. We were, as soon as we, the concern was, the big thing with the EMPG grants is supplanting. You can't do one or the other, but the timing was perfect with the station project, using as a 50-50 match. And it was great timing on this one. And lastly, on fire department staffing, I know in the past, we've had great discussion on how we could improve our staffing. I just wanted to make the board aware that the fire staffing, there's a grant now, the 2016 Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, the SAFER grant, has become available, and the application period has opened up. Actually, they gave a short notice on this. I didn't think it was gonna open up on us this quick. I just want to make the board aware of it to see if they were interested or not. I'll give you a brief description of it. Back in 2008, we were awarded a SAFER grant for 2 firefighters, and at that time, it was a 5-year performance commitment. The guidance document for this was quite lengthy, but I got through it, and I got the down and dirty for you. It's approximately $345 million is being allocated for this grant nationwide. It is a competitive grant. They project 300 awards nationally. And again, the performance period is not 5 years, but now it's 3 years to start July 1st of 2017 and run 3 years straight from there. And the cost match and share for this is, for year 1 is 75%, the town share is 25%. Year 2 is the same. In the 3rd year, it goes from 35% federal to 65% town share. The only thing that's eligible for this is full-time costs for firefighter salaries and benefits and retirement. In the past, we could also include uniforms, physicals, and say the gear for the firefighters. So, just giving you an idea for, I know we agreed that in the budget that we would go with a part-time route, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot of if we went with 4 full-time positions, what a year 1, 2, and 3 gross appropriation would look like in a town share. So town share in year 1 would be $93,000. Year 2 is $95,000, and year 3 is nearly $254,000 for the 4 firefighters, if awarded. Again, it's a competitive process. And so what's confusing, and what we had to deal with last time, is the fact that the feds look at it as almost like a fiscal year setup where it goes July to June. So that's the way you have to appropriate your funds versus we're a calendar year. So the cost share in reality for us in a calendar year for 2017, the town share would be just over $46,000. In 2018, the cost share would be $94,426. 2019, it'd be $172,000 and change. And for 6 months of the 2020 fiscal year would be $129,000. So you basically double, you take that share and then you add on whatever the 100% is beyond that after July 1st. But I just wanted to give you the opportunity because I know the clock is ticking. If you want consideration for this, we'd have to include that again in a warrant article like we did in 2008, where if awarded, that we would accept it and process the grant from there. But again, it's just for informational, and if the board would consider it, that's great. I would be happy to apply. If not, I'll keep you posted when it comes out again.
I mean, silence, yeah, I mean,
Silence.
if somebody wants to discuss it, bring it up. I mean, I'm more inclined just to make a decision to go with another route.
And yes, we have discussed another route in prior sessions, Chief. And what's the likelihood 2 years down the road, something similar?
I expect that probably a year from now, the application period for the 2017 SAFER grant would come open, and I'd be sitting here talking to you about that then.
Thank you, Chief.
Any discussion anymore?
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, we're 5 minutes early, Sue. Thank you,
Are
Chief.
you ready?
Great job on that grant. Town Administrators Report.
We'll start with your weekly or 2-week meeting schedule. This Wednesday night, don't forget, Budget Committee's having their public hearing. That is scheduled to be in the theater. If we have snow, it would be Thursday night, but in the media room. Thursday, again, is a snow day. Tuesday, the 17th, is Sewer Commission meeting
Got
at
it.
6 o'clock. And Wednesday, you don't do the library, but the other Wednesday, Wednesday the 18th, 7 o'clock is Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I have that one too.
Okay. Consensus folder tonight includes employee status report, a promotion to police sergeant, and a letter to DRA Municipal Accounts Advisor and Secretary of State regarding Grassmere Village Water District.
Why did they didn't have the records? They couldn't find them? or-
No, I didn't know what triggered this, but apparently the Secretary of State's office sent a list over to DRA, and there's many village water districts in the state of New Hampshire which were not on their list,
list.
but they were on DRA's list. So DRA was assigned the task of writing letters to everyone.
Grassmere is entertaining the idea of a bond for construction.
I did hear that, and I thought that was the trigger, but when I talked to DRA, they told me the trigger was this list from the Secretary of State's office.
They may have been checking legitimacy of the precinct.
Yeah, so I did a lot of research on this one, and drafted that letter for the chairman's signature.
I'll make a motion to accept the consensus folder.
Second?
Discussion?
Who do we give the second to here?
Give it
Dave?
to David.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none?
Assessors recommendations tonight, intent to cut on map 7, lot 55, and a land use change tax lien release, map 5, lots 56-1 and 56-5.
Motion to approve the assessor's recommendations.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none?
Thank you. And you have a request from the IT Director to authorize the IT Systems Administrator, Brian, to attend the Virtualization Technology Users Group Seminar in Foxborough, Mass. on 1/19. He has a memo attached at tab 6D.
Motion to accept the out-of-state travel request.
And second.
Any discussion? Minimal. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none?
Thank you. We already took care of E earlier, so we're good to go on that one. F is to review the revised draft of the 2017 annual warrant, the budget summary, and the estimated tax impact, and that's at 6F in your packets. And the warrant has been reviewed by DRA. They are fine with it, and Attorney Drescher has also looked at it, and he's fine with it. The, what did we remove last time? Oh, the Budget Committee and the Selectmen agreed to remove the parking lot. So now the estimated town side of the tax rate, if everything passes, is $9.16, which is a reduction of 12 cents from this year.
Anybody got discussion, issues? No? Okay, we'll go forward with that then. You Need a
Okay.
motion, Sue, or?
Nope, we're good. There'll be, and the Budget Committee has asked the chairman to address Article 7 of the Teamsters contract and Article 10, not Article 10. 3 is Teamsters, I'm sorry.
3 and
3 is
7.
Teamsters, and 7 is not the elderly exemption. That doesn't go before the Budget Committee, because it's not an appropriation article. So the other one is a CRF for land acquisition. To address that one, sorry. Little typo in there. And I'm sure you're prepared to do so, right, Wednesday night?
I am now.
Okay. GTV revolving fund, 2017 budget. As you're aware, GTV is funded by a revolving fund which receives 40% of the town's cable franchise fees. As a revolving fund, it is exempt from the Municipal Budget Act, so that's why you didn't see it with all the other budget items. However, we do enter a budget each year into our financial software. Enclosed at tab 6G is the 2017 GTV budget for your approval.
Does this take into consideration the adjustments we made?
Yes. As you can see, in 16, we took in they took in $144,514 for revenue. And we're always conservative in our estimates for the next year, so we estimate 140,000, and that's their budget, 140,000. And they currently have a balance of 141,917 in their revolving fund.
Sue, are you involved in this budget at all?
Mm-hmm.
I've questioned the,
Which one?
well, employee development. This year.
Yes. He knew he was going over, but he would save on another line. Some of these expenses, like the equipment line, was from the balance. They were given money, remember, in the 03-102 settlement to use for equipment, so they overexpended their budget this year, but that was because of that. Oh, no, they didn't. They're under by about, just barely under right now.
$100. Not even $100.
Close as you could be.
Don't go out for a cup of coffee.
Maybe two cups.
You need a motion for that, Peter?
Yes,
Motion to let the GTV funds
to approve the budget
approve
for
their
GTV.
budget?
The GTV revolving fund budget for 2017,
Yes.
Second.
seconded by Mark. Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none?
Thank you.
He spoke up.
I mean, it's a big dollar value, $100 close.
We have a request from a property tax payer to waive $36.21 on property taxes. As you're aware, by RSA, the tax collector has the authority to waive up to $25 in interest. She received this from a property taxpayer who mailed his check on November 28th, but it never arrived at Town Hall. He said he put it in our envelope, put a stamp on it, and it just never arrived here. The check is not, that check was not cashed, but when he was balancing his checkbook, saw that it hadn't been cashed yet, so called in, and Stephanie told him she hadn't received it, so he immediately came down and wrote another check.
I'll make a motion to waive the $36.21 interest on overdue property
I'll second
taxes.
that.
Seconded. Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, seeing
Can't
none?
count on the US Postal Service, that's all there is to it.
Enclosed at tab 6-1 is a memo from Assessor Bartlett regarding House Bill 254.
Sorry.
And he would like the selectmen's support in his testifying against this House bill, which would pretty much take away local representation on that board, Assessing Standards Board.
And would take away the expertise that that board has with fresh appointees.
And they would put members from the public utilities on there, and as a public member. And
Wonder why that is, huh, Collis?
so he's planning on going up there tomorrow morning, unless you say otherwise.
Make a motion, we support the assessor's testimony
Second.
on House Bill 254.
Anybody got anything to add?
No,
David?
Scott, I really appreciate Scott bringing this to our attention. With the reassignment of how people could be appointed to this board, they're focusing on towns that have
Under a population of 10,000.
under 10,000, or they have to be a city.
Right.
Well,
That would leave us out.
there's 18 communities. We're one of those 18. You know, Hanover, Wyndham, Exeter, Hampton, Durham, Salem, Derry,
You wouldn't have any say.
and which represents 25% of this state's population, would not be eligible to have a
No say.
position on this board. So, yes,
Hopefully they will prevail.
Okay, who made that motion? Mark? Was seconded by,
Mark and Dave seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none? GLC grant application?
Yeah, previously, Board had authorized the Historic District Commission to submit a letter of intent for a CLG grant to hire a preservation consultant to assist in the development of design guidelines for historic districts. Now they request the Board of Selectmen's authorization and the chairman's signature on the CLG grant application, which is in your signature folder.
There's no cost to us on this, right?
No.
Motion to accept the CLG grant application as
Second.
presented.
And authorize chairman to sign?
Authorize.
Authorized chairman to sign, yeah.
Still second it for you.
Any discussion on that one? Seeing none, move on to public safety impact fees.
As discussed,
You want to vote on it, Peter?
Huh?
Vote on it?
Yeah, we gotta,
No? We just,
we gotta vote on the one I just,
Oh.
we need to vote on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I thought we did.
I wrote it.
You wrote down it was, anyway.
Moving along.
Did we pass?
Yeah, 500.
Isn't that,
At least let us say aye.
oh, you know, she's a rubber stamp.
Okay,
You asked for
public
one.
safety impact fees.
Public safety and, as previously discussed, the police chief cannot use the $27,222.03 in public safety impact fees, which will expire on September 1st, 17, as the scope of his project has expanded and he needs to resubmit to CIP. Therefore, I recommend that those public safety impact fees be used for another public safety project, which has been underway since May 2016, and that's the fire station 18 project. This project was approved for the use of impact fees during the CIP process last year, and contracts were in place in May 2016, allowing us the ability to use these impact fees for this project.
And would these fees be used to offset the cost of the bond? Or
This would be
to,
in addition, so if there's any overages, this would help with those. Remember, we added to the size of this project with the paving of the roller skating, skateboard park. And what was the other thing we added? There were two items that were added. The shed for the Taggart?
DA?
DA Taggart.
So they have a gentleman's agreement, is he gonna give back the money later on?
No, this will be added, so it'll be 2.3 million plus this 24,000 would be, or 27,000 would be the total appropriation for the project.
That's gonna be a really nice shed.
Yeah.
Looks
We're
really,
recycling the overhead doors from the old station to the shed, but it'll be good. It'll look good.
Gonna be a really nice shed, though.
It's going to be a drive-through.
It'll be
Yeah,
fitted.
gold emblems on it, I'm sure.
I think that wasn't really a question.
Rhetorical, right?
Real nice shed.
Yeah,
Motion to accept the reallocation of $27,222 previously amount voted in 2016 of February to be used on the fire station project, Station 18.
second.
Seconded by Collis. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? We got that done.
I waited, yeah, okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Looks like we only had one meeting, and that was HDC.
Correct. We did have the meeting was held here at Town Hall. We talked about three things. First one was the marker for the historic marker for Station 18. This is a conceptual design. Want to pass it around, show everybody. That's pretty much what we okayed. Was unanimously approved 4-0-0. So that's what'll be going up over there. The 2017 CLG grant we just talked about, that was passed. And last but not least, the Lions Club Centennial Community Legacy Project. I will kind of share that over with Selectman Pierce. He has some information to shed about that, and if you want to share it, fine.
Yes, I'm been appointed by our Gulfstown Lions Club to be a project manager for this, what we're calling the Centennial of the Lions organization. Each club contributing a legacy project to their community. And consequently, I've let the library staff, park department, and historic district know that we're entertaining the submission of ideas for a project. They could vary anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000, and we'll pick one. Will be a couple caveats here. Would have to be finished by summer of 18, and something that essentially, if you could put a plaque on it to say the Lions Club contributed this feature, we're happy with it. And it has to be of lasting value. It's, couple decades of use, maybe. So we're looking forward to those applications from whether it's library, park department, or historic district folks.
Okay. You haven't received anything yet. When's the deadline?
Parks and Rec discussed it and offered at least one suggestion.
So I believe I'd like to have some tentative idea by the end of this month. And there's no real formal, lot of detail. I'm trying to keep it informal and a couple paragraphs of what's going to be built. And once the Lions Club Board of Directors homes in on one project, then we'll work out the fine details of the exact costs and move forward.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Anything else, Mark? That's
Nope,
it, right?
that was it. Next meeting scheduled for Wednesday, the 25th. And that will be back at the Grassmere Town Hall.
And hopefully you'll have some kind of they'll have something together to give the date by the end of the month. Anything else? Anything submitted on new business, the action matrix, most of that stuff we're still working on?
Yeah, I updated, a lot has already been done at Grassmere, so I took out everything that said done, and now you just have the
That's sort of
outstanding.
thinned down.
Yes.
Okay, take a motion.
Motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2A, dismissal, promotion, and compensation, B, hiring, C, adversely affecting reputation, and E, legal cases pending.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
That'll conclude our public portion of the January 9th Goffstown Board of Selectmen's meeting. And we're going into non-public. Thank you for watching.